Okay, hello, welcome to day 2 of Theology of Prayer by Father John A. Hardon. If you haven't listened to the first day, you should probably listen to the first day before you listen to this, because it is a book, so it builds on itself. Yesterday, we talked about how prayer is conversation with God and all the invisible spiritual realms. So I'm going to continue with day 2, and we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. God. We begin then by asking ourselves who belongs to this invisible world. The first one, who is more than a part of this invisible world, with whom we are privileged to communicate, is God. He is the Supreme Spirit who alone exists of himself and is infinite in all his perfections. He is utterly distinct in reality and essence from all other things that exist or can be conceived, all of which, if they exist, get their existence from him. God is eternal, without beginning, end, or succession, all-knowing even of man's most secret thoughts. He knows them before we tell him. He is immeasurable, being at one place in heaven and on earth. He is in all places that are or that can be. He is just in rendering to everyone according to his due in this world or hereafter. Nor is that all. The God of faith is not a solitary deity, but the eternal society of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, each truly and fully God, and therefore truly distinct, yet altogether being but one divine nature, so that there is only one God. What communication has been going on among the three divine persons from endless ages before the world began. What a conversation they have been having long before any creature existed, or any human being had even had a thought. You might again, with reverence, say that when we pray to God, we are breaking in the conversation among the persons of the Trinity. The angels. If God is the first and primary being of the invisible world, with whom are we called upon to speak? The angels are the second greatest beings with whom we are to communicate in prayer. Who are the angels? They are the heavenly spirits created by God before he made the visible world and the human race. Not a few fathers of the church say seriously, in God's original plan of creation, there was only to have been this invisible created world, but part of that created world sinned, so to replace must have been a lot of places, to fill heaven with those who would honor him for eternity. He then decided to create mankind. The angels are pure spirits who have no bodies like our own, but they are persons no less than we. They are intelligent beings whom God brought into being to praise, love, and serve him no less than us. They are the angels now. They are the angels who prove their loyalty to God and are now in heaven with God, never to be separated from him. The role in God's plan for the universe, and how this bears emphasis, is to serve our needs. They are literally the guardians of the human race, and it is part of our faith that each one of us has his or her own guardian spirit. Guardian angels are consequently part of God's supernatural providence, which, as we know, works through the creatures from the higher to the lower. Needless to say, we are the lower. Within the realm of created beings, the angels are more like God because they are pure spirit creatures having no body, but they are also like us because they too have a mind. We too have a mind and a will, so we can talk to the angels. The angels are providential intermediaries between God, whose vision they already enjoy, and mankind, whom they are entrusted to lead to the vision not yet attained. We therefore have not only the privilege, but the duty to talk with the angels in easy, intimate, and frequent conversation. We read in the lives of the saints how friendly some of them were with their powerful communication with the angels. Why not? Each one of us has a constant daily companion at our side, whose responsibility is not only to guard us from evil, but to guide us in the ways of God. He is often talking to us if only we are ready to hear, and a large part of our prayer with the angels, especially our own guardian spirit, should be humbly listening to what he has to say. The saints. There is one more level of the invisible world of prayer with which we are to converse beyond God and the angels, and that is the universe of the saints. By the saints we here mean first and mainly the men and women whom the Church has raised to the honors of the altar and has infallibly declared to be with God in glory. One of the less well-known passages of the Second Vatican Council occurs in the Constitution of the Church, where we are urged to be more responsive to the invisible world of the saints on high. We are told it is not merely by the title of example that we cherish the memory of those in heaven. We seek rather that by this devotion to the exercise of fraternal charity, the union of the whole Church and the Spirit may be strengthened. Exactly as Christian communion between people on their earthly pilgrimage brings us closer to Christ, so our communion with the saints joins us to Christ, from whom, as from its fountain and head, issues all grace and the very life of the people of God. The saints behold the face of God. By speaking with them and listening to them, we learn much about this God whom they now know, as we hope one day to understand. And they can help us. Only those who have reached their destiny can assist us, that is, us, who are still in desperate need. I have a short epilogue. I would like to end by these reflections where we began, by asking ourselves and answering our own question: what is the meaning of prayer? Prayer is the sublime conversation we are mysteriously able to hold with the invisible world of God and of God's angels and saints. It is sublime because that it is what we are preparing for during our stay on earth. Prayer is the one activity that will be interrupted by death, but will continue in heaven, never to end. Of course, prayer on earth requires effort, but that is as it should be, since all other labor in this life has only as much value and as much meaning, and is only as pleasing to God as it is enveloped by prayer. Those who pray now will pray in eternity, which is another name for heaven. No one else will get there. Prayer is the indispensable and infallible means of reaching our destiny. Chapter 2: Prayer of Admiration and Praise. If we were to ask the average Catholic what he means by prayer, I think he would say something like this: prayer is asking God for what you need. The answer is correct, of course, but not fully adequate. No doubt many people, maybe most people, most of the time when they pray, are asking God for some favor, whether something they want or to be protected from something they don't want. They are sick and in pain, and so they pray for help. They face a difficult situation, and so they pray for light and strength to cope with the problem. They are confused and bewildered, so they ask God to give them some guidance. They are afraid of what awaits them in the future, and so they pray for courage. All of this is true and is as it should be. In fact, one reason that God sends us trials and difficulties is to keep us humbly dependent on His help. He knows how well He knows that if everything always went well, we would become proud and independent and would not likely pray. And the pages of the Gospel are filled with episodes in which people in the trouble ask the Savior for help. It seems that is all they are doing. Lord, that I may see. Lord, if you wish, you can make me whole. If I but touch the hem of his garment, I shall get well. Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me. But is that all there is to prayer, or more exactly, is this the highest form of prayer in which we can engage, the prayer in which we tell God, Lord, come to my assistance, Lord, make haste to help me? Adoration. The answer to our question is no. The most sublime prayer which we can offer to God is not the prayer of petition. It is not even the prayer of gratitude. It is the prayer of adoration. This prayer of adoration is implicit in every other prayer that we make, and without this no one will ever really pray at all. The only reason we ask God to help us is because we first acknowledge who He is. The only reason we ever thank God for anything is because, implicit in our gratitude, it is already adoration. What do we do when we adore God? When we adore God, we recognize who He is and tell Him that we are pleased. The second part is not an afterthought. You know that we can tell people who or what we think they are, but besides saying that, we must also be pleased. I believe that much more attention should be given to the prayer of adoration than we are naturally inclined to give. I say this especially because today's world is so preoccupied with self and with man's own achievements, so interested in what human genius has discovered or human ingenuity has made. Man is preoccupied with man. In my opinion, the capital sin of the present age is self-idolatry. Men and women are so lost in their personal or collective accomplishments that they are literally, though we don't use the words, they are literally adoring themselves. The malady, then, is more serious than just not asking God for His assistance. It is the deeper vice of ignoring the majesty of God and worshipping itself instead of the pathetically finite mystery of misery of man. How otherwise explain what otherwise defies explanation? Human beings standing in judgment on the most sacred laws of the Almighty. He tells them to honor father and mother and all legitimate superiors in society. They tell him that they determine who has authority, how and even what authority means, and not he. He tells them not to commit adultery or fornication or homosexuality. They tell him not to mind his own divine business. They are not children any more, as well as were the simple believers of the formal age, not to be told how to enjoy their own bodies. He tells them not to shed innocent human blood. They tell him that they are masters of life and death, and not he. It is not for him, but for them to decide who shall live before birth or after birth, and for how long. In one of my conversations recently with Mother Teresa on this subject, she told me that she was convinced the real evil behind the evil of abortion is not mere selfishness. It is not merely that people are so preoccupied with their own interests as not to want children and to stand between themselves and the pleasures they can enjoy. Behind the mania of abortion, she's convinced, certainly in the leaders of society, is a defiance of God. I agree. If we were to speculate how man in his maddest treachery could have defied the Almighty from the depths of his being, would it not be precisely in the act of procreation? Here God tells man, I am master of life and death, and man's evil genius has invented a way to say no to their Creator by denying God's right over human existence. If ever, surely today God wants adorers in spirit and truth to make up for the blasphemers in untruth. He wants men, women, and children to adore him. When I have occasion, I recommend to mothers and fathers that they cannot begin too early with the children to teach them to acknowledge God as God in all accents of human language. Why? In order to make up for the massive denial of adoration by so many who are seduced by one another's achievements and become drunk with their own self-conceit. Adoration is the primary duty of man as creature. God demands man's adoration as the fundamental law of human existence. So that's it for today. Come back tomorrow for day 3 and the rest of chapter 2. Bye!